Go.
Right, good morning everyone. This is a little slideshow by myself and Paul. We're going to be talking to you about a few very important sort of iconic album covers from about the last 40 years really. And specifically we're going to be talking about Nevermind by Nirvana, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd and Abbey Road by the Beatles. These are some incredibly well-known images now. They've all been reproduced sort of thousands and thousands of times, and I'd expect any of you guys to be able to name the band from the covers, and other people will be able to do sort of worldwide. Basically, Paul is going to give you some facts and figures about the album covers, when they were made, who by, all that sort of thing, and I'm going to give you a few examples of some of the reproductions and other places they've been used.
So if we look at the first one, Nevermind by Nirvana, it's released in September 1991, widely regarded as one of the greatest rock albums of all time. It's Nirvana's second studio album. The idea was conceived by Dave Grohl and Kurt Cobain. They watched a TV programme about waterbursts and mentioned it to the art director of the record company, who found some stock footage of waterbursts, but the record company rejected it because they were too graphic. And when they found a picture they could use, people who owned the copyright of the picture wanted too much money, so they decided to send their own photographer out and take pictures. So they sent the photographer out and took a picture, took 5 shots of a 3-month-old infant called Spencer Elby, who is the son of friends of the photographer. So the dollar bill and the fish hook were superimposed after the shot. And Elvin has since featured on other album covers and now works as an artist in the USA. So.
Right, this is a few of the reproductions that have been made of the Nevermind album cover. I think of the 3 covers we've got, this one is most regularly copied actually in videos and films and all that sort of thing, which I can't really show you on the slideshow, so I've got a few still images. The Simpsons one, this is sort of, you know, the big thing for any celebrity is to be asked to do something for the Simpsons. But this was actually the cover of a Rolling Stones magazine in 2002 over in America, which I believe is quite a massive magazine over there, although we don't have it here. Apple obviously is massive, as we just heard in our last presentation. This is sort of a combination by an online designer mixing the two up. And now the Lego one, on the internet there are sort of reproductions of pretty much anything famous in Lego, so this is just sort of signifies how big and massive it is. And the last one is Weird Al Yankovic. This guy is sort of known as the king of parodies, and he's basically parodied the entire Nirvana album and made his own cover with a donut, as you can see here, and him swimming instead of a baby. It's kind of quite a big mixtape, fair to say. And yeah, never a very popular album, but a very good front cover in my opinion.
So look at the next one, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, released in March 1973. It's their 8th studio album. 34 million copies sold worldwide, and it holds the world record for the most consecutive weeks in the American Billboard Top 200 album chart, and that's 591 weeks. So the band employed a studio called Hypnosis to design the cover, and they created 7 designs, but the one that the band all chose was this one, the dispersive prism. So the prism against the black background is supposed to represent the inventive use of stage lighting. The triangularity of the prism is supposed to represent mad ambition and the album lyrics. And the overall core design was a request by the band member Richard Wright to have something less pictorial, more bold, more iconic. The gatefold design has a similar prism on the back cover, but recombining the light. And some of the more observant of you might notice that there's only 6 colours on the spectrum. They left the indigo out. Now, for what reason, I'm not sure. Maybe just didn't add anything extra to the design. So,
right, we're on to a few parodies of the Dark Side of the Moon here. Now, the original image of this is probably one of the most reproduced images ever for Pink Floyd fans. I mean, if you ever go to a festival or a concert, there's always someone wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt with not this image on, but the original image. There's millions of mugs, posters, key rings, all that sort of thing. And this has been sort of massively copied around the world, but it's usually the least altered one, so finding these parodies wasn't all that simple. Now the top left one, as it is to you, is there's a little quote on there that actually says "Dark Side of the That's No Moon," which is a little bit of a mixtape taken from Star Wars. And the Oz one, this is sort of referring to the idea that you can play the entire album of Dark Side of the Moon and sync it up with The Wizard of Oz, and supposedly the two things line up perfectly. And this is something that drugged up hippies have been doing for years and years and years. There's always been a hot debate whether Pink Floyd actually designed the whole album to go with the film Wizard of Oz. Probably not true, but quite an interesting story. The one over here with the shoe on is Converse's version of Dark Side of the Moon, their sort of tribute to Pink Floyd. And there's a lot of people who'd sort of consider having your own shoe made after you, sort of quite a big honour. And the last little one here, which is all done in tiny little pixels, is by a group who have just released this album recently. I don't actually have their name. It's an 8-bit reinterpretation of the entire Dark Side of the Moon album, though. They've actually made the whole album in 8-bit sounds, like you used to get in Mario and all that sort of thing. It's quite a spectacle to hear.
So the next one is Abbey Road by the Beatles, released in September 1969. It was their 11th studio album, and it was the first Beatles album to not have the band's name or the album title on the cover. In October 1969, it was in the charts, the British album charts, for a total of 81 weeks, 17 of those at number 1. It was named after the recording studios, Abbey Road, which is in Camden, in London. On the day of the shoot, they had to close the road for 10 minutes to take the picture. It's arguably one of the most famous and most imitated covers in recording history. The crossing has moved a few feet since the picture was taken, but it still proves to be a popular destination for Beatles fans all over the world. Some interesting facts: this guy here is supposedly American tourist Paul Cole, who only realised he was on the picture, or on the cover, a few months later when the record came out. And the VW Beetle, you see here, after the album came out, the number plate was stolen off it several times. It was auctioned, the car is still around, it was auctioned in 1986, and a museum in Germany actually have the car there.
Right, this is a few of the parodies of the Beatle Abbey Road album. Now, as my colleague already said, this has been copied many, many times, but unlike the others, it's not been posters and mugs. This has been copied by other artists to put on their own album cover, and this happens again and again and again and again and again. It's still happening now. People are still using this image for their album cover today. It's been the most altered. Like, there's a lot of people with their own variations of it. We've got The Simpsons again up the top, another sure sign of reaching fame for an image. The Red Hot Chili Peppers is my personal favourite. This is the first time I ever saw any version of the Abbey Road cover, and this became like a regular thing for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, was walking around with nothing but a sock over your genital region. And we've got a couple others that really show sort of how widespread this was. We've got a death metal band called, I can actually read it off there, called Screaming Afterlife, and also some Franciscan Road monks. It just shows how sort of widespread their popularity is. Now, I've got a short list of names taken from some of the hundreds of thousands of versions of this. Some of the people who have copied it, just to sort of illustrate how popular it is. It starts off with The Simpsons, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Franciscan Road monks, Screaming Afterlife and Sesame Street, Kanye West, Lego, Trainspotting, there's a scene in Trainspotting with it, Ren and Stimpy, a Pooh Hiking Society from the Philippines, the Beastie Boys, there's a Star Wars t-shirt with a Pooh and everyone walking across in the same sort of fashion, Benny Hill, the B-Sharps, the Home Simpsons band from The Simpsons, Blur, in one of their videos they've copied it, Paul McCartney actually copied it in one of his own later solo albums, Snoopy, the Shadows, the United Nations, and about 5,000 other hillbilly American country bands. It's, completely widespread. This thing's gone all around the world.
So to conclude, we've looked at 3 album covers that we consider to be iconic. Nevermind by Nirvana, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and Abbey Road by the Beatles. But the question is, what makes an album cover iconic? Because there's plenty of album covers out there, if you look on the internet, that you wouldn't, you'd know the picture maybe, but you wouldn't know the band. When you look at, the most important thing I think is great music. When you look at like Pink Floyd sold 34 million copies, Nirvana's album is widely regarded as the best, the greatest, one of the greatest rock albums of all time. It's the music that makes the album great, as well as having a simple, bold design that catches the imagination, and obviously a sign of being a great album cover is, as we've seen from George's slides, that they're heavily imitated. So I think that concludes our presentation, and if there's any questions, we'll take them now.